Malaysia came to them in another way, not through cheers in the street, but through the everyday warmth of a small food stall. The smell of nasi lemak drifted from the kitchen. The sounds of pans, plates, and customers talking blended together into something that felt deeply like home. The owner was an older woman. The moment she saw them walk in, she smiled as if she were seeing people she had known for years. She said, "My customers watch your videos every morning while they eat, so of course I know who you are." Then, without asking much else, she brought out 2 hot plates and told them to eat, because today, it was on her. Jack felt a little shy and tried to pay, but she shook her head. Sometimes the way an older person says no carries more weight than a long explanation ever could. She simply said, "Some things are not meant to be paid back, son." In that tiny eatery, surrounded by the smell of rice, coconut, and sambal, that sentence suddenly became something unforgettable. Years later, Jack might not remember every street he walked in Malaysia, but he would surely remember what it felt like to be treated with that kind of simple kindness. Brazil was completely different. That place felt like a heartbeat that always beats a little faster than usual. The air itself seemed full of music. Even the sound of people talking in the street carried its own rhythm. They had barely gone far. When they saw a group of young people playing football, Jack never even figured out who recognized him first. He only knew that a few seconds later, the ball had rolled toward him, and laughter burst out everywhere. One of the boys tossed him a shirt with the words Jack-10 on it. Everything happened so quickly that no one had time to make it look polished. And maybe that was exactly why it was beautiful. Jack rolled up his sleeves and joined a short game right there in the street. No flashy skills, no performance. Just running, laughing, passing, missing the ball, then laughing again. Tu Tien stood at the side watching, smiling and shaking her head. In a street corner so far from home, with no shared language, everyone still understood each other through something deeply human, pure excitement. When the game ended, everyone was breathless, shirts damp with sweat, but their eyes were bright. Some joys really are that simple. One ball, a few voices calling out, and suddenly the distance between strangers disappears. Taiwan brought them back to quiet again. A small tea shop, the sound of water boiling, a light fragrance of tea in the air. The whole place felt as though it had been protected by slowness. The owner was an older man. He invited them to sit, then prepared the tea little by little, without rushing. The way he moved made it feel as if everything in life deserved to be treated gently, even a single cup of tea. After a silence that lasted just long enough, he finally said that he lived alone. And on many evenings, the familiar voices from Jack and Tu Tien's videos had made the room feel a little less empty. Tu Tien listened, then lowered her head slightly. Not because she did not know what to say, but because some confessions can only be received with silence. Jack lifted the teacup and felt the warmth spread through his palms. In that moment, he understood that companionship is not always loud the way people imagine. Sometimes, it is just the soft feeling that at the end of the day, there is still a voice somewhere that makes the room seem less empty. Then they came to America. New York appeared like the opposite rhythm of everything they had just experienced. Tall, fast, bright, crowded, and always carrying the feeling that no one truly stands still for more than a few minutes. In a city like that, it would be easy to think people could disappear into the crowd. But in that same place, they met a group of Vietnamese students. Young faces, eyes carrying both the exhaustion of life far from home and the very real joy of finding something familiar in a strange city. There was no stage, just a street corner, a small speaker, a familiar song beginning to play. Then everyone sang together, in between towering buildings, in a city moving so quickly that sometimes it does not even give you time to miss home properly. That moment somehow made distance feel soft. Jack looked at the faces around him and suddenly understood how strange and beautiful it is to find one another in a world this big. Tu Tien stood beside him, eyes slightly glistening, because maybe she felt it too. That sometimes what people need most is not to be taken home, but simply to be reminded that they never truly left the feeling of belonging. South Korea came to them on a night with a light rain. Reflections of neon lights shimmered on the wet streets, making the whole city feel wrapped in a softer layer of glow. A group of young people had been waiting for them. No one rushed forward. No one made a scene. They simply bowed a little and said that during their most exhausting times, during the days when studying, work, pressure, and loneliness all piled together, they would often sit down and watch Jack and Tu Tien's videos as a group, not because the videos solved everything, but because for those few minutes, their hearts felt a little lighter. Jack listened, nodded, said very little, but something in his eyes changed, as if each story along the journey was quietly placing one more truth inside him. Maybe once he had thought of what he did as simply making content, but by now, he was starting to understand. Sometimes what you send out does not stop at the screen. It travels farther. It reaches long nights, small rooms, people who are trying hard to look okay, and stays with them in its own quiet way. Then came Japan, a place where even silence seems to have shape. Under falling cherry blossoms, they met a middle-aged man. He bowed very deeply. No long explanation, no dramatic story, just one sentence: "Thank you for being kind." Then he walked away. That was all. But Jack stood there for a long time afterward. Because some thank yous, the shorter they are, the deeper they go. Japan left them with the feeling that some things become unforgettable precisely because they are not said too much, like cherry blossoms drifting down so lightly. Yet once you have stood beneath them, you never really forget. Hong Kong became the final emotional turn in that part of the journey. It was a city that did not go to sleep early. Neon lights, streets crowded with signs, footsteps moving past each other in every direction. All of it making the night feel as if it had a life of its own. In the middle of that light, a young woman came to Tu Tien. She held out a carefully folded letter. Her hand trembled slightly, but her eyes were much calmer now. She said, "I wrote this letter when I was at my lowest, and I kept it until today, just so I could hand it to you myself." Tu Tien took it. She did not open it right away. She simply held it carefully, as if she were holding something fragile. Maybe she understood. Some letters are not just words on paper. They are a piece of the time someone struggled to survive. And handing it to someone in person is a way of saying, "I made it through." In a city glowing so brightly, that thin letter in her hands became the one thing that made the whole night feel quiet. And then, after so many flights, so many roads, so many handshakes, little gifts, and unexpected meetings, Jack and LyTuTien slowly came to understand something they might never have felt this clearly if they had simply stayed home. $10 million. Yes, it can change a life, It can help people clear their debts. It can open doors they once thought were too far away. It can give them the chance to rest, to begin again, to go places they never dared dream of before. But after everything, money was still not the most precious thing they brought back. What they brought back were faces, stories, a paper garland in Manila, a riverside song in Bangkok, a glass of masala chai in a busy market in India, an old phone inside a small house in Indonesia, a warm plate of nasi lemak offered with genuine kindness in Malaysia, a short football match full of laughter in Brazil, a quiet cup of tea in Taiwan, a song rising between the streets of New York, a soft confession under the rain in South Korea, a thank you so brief it left them speechless in Japan, and a letter saved from the hardest days in Hong Kong. Each place left something behind. Nothing loud, nothing grand, but enough to fill their hearts in a very strange and beautiful way. They realized that somewhere in this world, there were people who had seen them as a very small, yet very real, part of their lives. And maybe the most beautiful thing is not how famous you become, but that at some point you were there for someone, exactly when they needed something gentle the most. So maybe the most interesting question is not, if you had $10 million, what would you buy? Maybe the real question is, where would you go? Who would you meet? How would you use that kind of blessing to touch your own life and someone else's in a meaningful way? Because in the end, the things that stay with us longest are rarely the most expensive ones. More often, they are a short sentence, a simple meal, a meeting that lasted only a few minutes, but somehow was enough to remind you that this world still holds many warm places worth returning to.